This is the Valley Today.
4 Fargo police officers who are members of the Metro Street Crimes Unit are on standard administrative leave this morning after the shooting death of a suicidal man in Mapleton. Police were called to a home yesterday morning after receiving 2 calls about gunshots and a man having a mental health crisis. Authorities say there were reports of criminal activity prior to their arrival, which may have contributed to the individual's mental state. When officers arrived, they heard gunfire. Several agencies arrived on scene and set up a perimeter, and people in that Mapleton neighborhood were then told to shelter in place. Police spent 4 hours trying to talk with the man. They even brought in his father and brother to help. Cass County Sheriff Jesse Johnner says the man told negotiators that he was coming out of the house with a gun and they urged him not to and to come out unarmed. The sheriff says the man walked out of the house with what's believed to be a rifle. That's when officers shot and killed him. It's not clear if the man fired any shots. His name is not yet being released. Now, this is the 3rd officer-involved shooting in Cass County in the past month and the 2nd one that turned deadly. It is just about 6:02 on this Tuesday morning. Let's get a check of your forecast out there and kind of a pretty view with the clouds and the sun behind you there, Lisa.
Yeah, I thought so too. We've got that sunrise coming up here in Grand Forks at Home of Economies where our view is right now. And it's illuminating those storm clouds that have been working their way through that part of the region here. And Grand Forks has had some showers move through. If you look closely in the bottom right, you can see parking lot there looking a little wet. And then here comes that other storm cloud, another storm that is producing some heavy rain to the west of Grand Forks. So here's a look at those cells. They've been weakening this morning. It was a lot more colorful here with these cells that are now in northwestern parts of Polk County. More reds and lightning indicated with those, and we saw some on our Skycam in Grand Forks as they move through. And another one moving through right around the Niagara area right now from Nelson County and into Grand Forks County. That's moving to the east as well and not currently producing any lightning, but that could change. So a couple of cells that have been weakening moving to the east that we'll watch. Everywhere else it's very quiet here in the valley, and our thoughts turn to the heat that's coming our way. Here's a look at our temperatures right now. Fargo's warm at 66. It's 64 in Grand Forks. Bemidji's at 58. Devil's Lake 67 to start off the day today. Most of us starting off quietly again, and then heading into the daytime hours. It depends on where you are. If you're in the Southern Valley, that's where we're more concerned about heat. Northern Valley, our focus is more on that chance for some thunderstorms heading into later parts of the day. So in the south, this is Fargo's planner. We're looking at temperatures getting into the 90s. The heat index may reach 100 degrees, and that's going to be very tough on our vulnerable population. So, and anybody who's not being careful as well. So make sure you're practicing those heat safety rules. We'll remind you of those coming up here today. But we'll see clouds increase too, so that may be a factor in our temperatures as well. Also, later tonight, this evening, a chance for some storms in the north, and we could see a couple of those storms turn severe. You can see the yellow, slight risk. That's a level 2 out of 5. So we'll explain more on that and the heat. A lot going on here today, all coming up here in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, definitely got to watch out for that heat. Lisa, thank you this morning. 6:04 right now. 8 gravestones were vandalized in a North Dakota cemetery over the weekend, and police are asking for help in finding those responsible. The Benson County Sheriff's Office says it happened at the Lebanon Cemetery. That's just north of Brinsmade and southeast of Leeds. The Sheriff's Office says the gravestones were destroyed. Now you can contact the Benson County Sheriff's Office if you have any information about that case. A Detroit Lakes man who was involved in a fiery crash on I-94 in Fargo last Friday has now died. 71-year-old Reed Satrum was brought to a local hospital before being flown to the St. Paul at a burn center. Satrum's passenger, 53-year-old Everett Northrup, also of Detroit Lakes, remains hospitalized with serious injuries. The North Dakota Highway Patrol says the crash happened when Satrum's pickup hit the back of a semi, which had slowed down for construction. Police are now identifying the victim of a deadly motorcycle crash in Cass County as 75-year-old Charles Beckeroos of Fargo. It happened Sunday on County 16, just southwest of Horace. The North Dakota Highway Patrol says Beckeroos left the road, entered a ditch, drove through a sunflower field, and then fell off his motorcycle. A Minnesota man is now charged with murder and attempted murder after stabbings along the Apple River in Wisconsin over the weekend. One teenager was killed, 4 others are hurt. 52-year-old Nicolay Mew of Prior Lake is claiming that it was self-defense. Documents say the stabbings happened after a confrontation between Mew and a number of other people. The 5 victims were all between the ages of 17 and 24 years old, and they were from Minnesota and Wisconsin. A 17-year-old boy from Stillwater, Minnesota, was killed. The death of a man behind one of North Dakota's worst multiple murders is leaving many unanswered questions for family members of his victims, like why he did it. 48-year-old Chad Isaak took his own life on Sunday inside the North Dakota State Penitentiary. He was serving life for killing 4 people at a Mandan business. Erica Craven has more.
Last August, after only 4.5 hours of deliberation, a jury found Chad Isaak guilty of murdering 4 RJR employees. Attorneys in the case said the crime was one of the worst the state has ever seen. Family and friends of the victims, Robert Faulkner, Adam Fuhrer, William Cobb, and Lois Cobb, learned of the perpetrator's death shortly after it occurred.
I don't think we'll ever be able to 100% move forward. We know how his family's feeling right now, and that's the most important thing, is that they're grieving now.
During the trial, prosecutors laid out evidence that the jury agreed pointed to Isaak. The evidence included what analysts say was blood found on the door handles of Isaak's pickup truck, but no motive was ever produced. And now the reason for the crimes may never be known.
It still, leaves the victims' families and their friends, his own family with a number of unanswered questions.
Last December, Judge David Reich sentenced Isaak to 4 consecutive life sentences. At the sentencing hearing, Isaak spoke to the court for the first and only time.
I can honestly tell you that I'm not a murderer, and that's all I have to say.
Isaak's defense team could not comment on the state of Isaak's mental health at trial due to attorney-client privilege.
My heart goes out to his family. His mother, father, his siblings.
When your news leader reached out to the prison for information on how the incident was able to occur, they responded with this statement, quote, "It is still under investigation with the Highway Patrol, so at this time we will need to decline an interview."
Isaak had filed an appeal in January. It will now be up to the Supreme Court to dismiss that appeal. Authorities never determined a motive for the killings. We have the latest now on breaking news that we first told you about yesterday right here on the Valley Today. A report of gunfire in this North Fargo neighborhood all turned out to be a hoax, and the man who police say is responsible for making that call is now under arrest this morning. 25-year-old Kwame Twum was arrested for providing a false report and harassment and is still in jail this morning. Police allege that he called around 5 yesterday morning and said a woman had been shot. He also had several outstanding warrants. Charges are possible in an ATV crash that hurt 3 people in Motley, Minnesota. Deputies say the vehicle rolled in a ditch several times and then hit a number of trees early Saturday. The driver is a 20-year-old from Motley. He was flown to a Twin Cities hospital with critical injuries. A 20-year-old passenger was flown to St. Cloud, and a 19-year-old passenger was treated at the Staples Hospital. The sheriff's office says alcohol and speed contributed to that crash. A top al-Qaeda leader who was instrumental in the planning of the 9/11 terror attacks has been killed. President Joe Biden announced that a U.S. airstrike killed Ayman al-Zawahiri over the weekend. In an outdoor address, the president said that there were no civilian casualties as a result of that drone strike. Al-Zawahiri was Osama bin Laden's deputy during the 9/11 attacks, and he took over as leader of al-Qaeda after bin Laden's death. Meanwhile, Taliban authorities are now tightening security this morning near the site where al-Zawahiri was killed. A Taliban spokesman strongly condemned the strike, calling it a violation of international principles. For years, al-Zawahiri was believed to be hiding along the forbidding border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Projects with the biggest payoff still to come this Tuesday morning. What upgrades will pay off the most if you're looking to renovate your home? But next, might be a good day to stay inside if you have air conditioning anyway. We're talking about intense heat today. Lisa Green lets us know just how warm we get.